Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I thought I would do a landscape watercolor tutorial. Now this can be done with any type of watercolors you already own. Just keep in mind, if you are doing something that is student grade and lower in quality of watercolors like Crayola, it's not going to be light fast. You'll want to put it behind glass and hang it somewhere out of direct light, or it will fade over time. So grab your watercolors. You're going to need some blues and some browns. And the purpose of this watercolor would be as a gift for yourself or for someone else. And it could go with your interior home. So if you want to color match some things to your wall color or to some of your accessories, it doesn't have to be blues. If the accessory colors, and I mean like throw pillows, blankets, things like that, are reds in your house or purples, you could definitely use that color in place of blue. My house has blues and greens, so that's what I'm going with. But since it's going to be a landscape, there's going to be sort of an earth and a sky, but your sky could be any color you want, and that could be, you know, the sunrise or sunset. So keep in mind, if you're going to hang this piece, that it sort of color matches what you already have. It's much easier to buy the furniture and the things you want and then create your art around it than it is to buy the art and try and find furniture to match. So because the holiday is coming up, because I haven't done a watercolor tutorial in absolutely forever, we're gonna do this. So I have with me my watercolors. I have a form of pipette. You can use a little mister to activate your watercolors and get them softening. A jar for water. I have a couple little tiny ones. And then a well for mixing colors if you want to color match to your home, to your office, to wherever this piece of art is going to go. So I'm not going to tell you what specific supplies you need to own or buy. I want you to use what you have. It's very important that we enjoy the supplies we have and move forward with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this piece of paper in two in our mind. Now, you can have this horizontal, you can have this vertical. Keep in mind of standard picture framing sizes if you're going to frame this. Ooh, hold on. Sorry, it's an active weekend and some cars are loud. So 5x7, 8x10, 11x14 in the United States. Keep all of that in mind for sizing if you're going to frame this. If you're not, if you're just going to give it as a gift, keep in mind that other people might want to frame it. So make sure your paper sort of either fits that or comes with some matting. Those are US standard size for picture frames. Your country may be a little bit different. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind when you go to create art as it pertains to gifts or things you want to put in your home. Okay, so this does not require tape, but you could use tape if you had some. I have some lavender, like sensitive paper tape, but you don't need it. So how much sky do you want versus how much land do you want? That's the first question you want to ask yourself. Do you want to split it directly down the middle? Do you want a little bit of sky? Do you want a whole lot of land? Or would you have that reversed? There's no wrong way to do this tutorial. It is what's best is what's preference to you and what colors you kind of want to highlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate some colors in my personal palette, and I'm gonna go for indigo, I believe that is. I have I have my swatch card. Okay, so third in is indigo, and then I really want to do some, I'm gonna do brilliant yellow dark, and maybe I'll add some burnt sienna. I really like burnt sienna. That's a really nice one. So I'm just going to use 3 colors for this tutorial. And again, you could add more. You can do different colors. Again, my bottom is going to be the browns, and my top is going to be the blue for the sky. But again, you can change that to fit your needs or to fit the supplies you own. If you don't own blues, if you don't have any browns or siennas, Here is my burnt sienna. Here is the yellow that I've activated with a little bit of water. These are the 3 colors I'm using. But if what you own isn't this, don't rush out and buy some. Just use what you already have. As creators, as artists, as painters, it's good to just use what you have and enjoy what you have. And if you find yourself more often than not needing a color over and over and over again, and it's one you don't own, keep a list of it, figure out, birthday, holiday, and then purchase. But I wouldn't rush out and buy single one-off shades and tints, especially if you're not sure you're going to use them over and over. All right, so I'm going to take a really wide brush. This is a 22 by Royal and Langnickel. This is a very budget brush. It's about 1 inch wide. Just grab a wide brush. If you don't have a wide brush, you can grab a brand new sponge from your kitchen. There are many ways to do this. They are all correct, okay? That's the beauty of art. And this is a pretty wet brush. Can you see that? There's like water sitting in it. You can see the water on my hand. And I'm just gonna draw a line with the water and make sure it's fairly straight across. And then I'm gonna do a little bit of stripes with the wet. This is a wet on wet technique. I'm gonna take this brush, I'm going to dip it in my blue, and I'm just gonna kind of touch it to the wet on wet and see if that is soft enough to blend out. If not, I'm gonna go back over it and figure out what I want my sky to look like. If it's not enough water, if I want the huge bloom effect, then I add way more sitting water on the page, almost to a puddle. And then just touch the pigment to this wet on wet and let it bloom out. I want to make sure that the blue goes across the whole page though. This is sort of my horizon line. I'm going to clean my brush, make sure it's with a lot of water, and I'm just going to sort of soften the edges here. This is meant to be sort of a surreal landscape. This is not going to be hyper realistic. This is not something that takes a ton of time. Think of rainy, cloudy days. Think of what that looks like in the clouds as they move around, as they shift. The edges soften up. Okay? If you don't like an area, you can add a little bit more pigment. If it seems too strong, you can just go back in with a really wet brush and just keep softening it till you get the look you want, okay? And then make sure that this top half, you're not gonna wanna touch this. You can either wait till it dries, you can blow dry it. If you have an excess puddle of water that you don't like, make sure there's no water in your bristles, and then you can just sort of tap and lift some of that water. If you want to manipulate how soft the edges are, how hard the lines are, you can do that with your brush once all the water is squeegeed out. Squeegee out the water, and then you can tap it to the puddles and lift some of the color. Okay, now make sure your brush is clean, and we're going to go in with some of these earth tones. Now we don't want to touch this line, and again, you could have used a piece of tape if you want it perfectly flat. Maybe you want it at an angle, you want it coming down. It could be arched, it could be curved, convex, concave, however you want your horizon line to look. Again, this is your piece of art. How you choose to design it is correct. Okay? This is just a fun, splashy thing you can hang up on your wall or gift to someone because the holiday season's coming up. Now I want to mix a little bit. I'm going to pretend that I am mixing to our wall color. Our wall color is called Lime White by Farrow and Ball. It's color matched to Farrow and Ball's color. It is not their paint. But I really, really like the undertone of yellow and green in our warm sort of ivory colored walls. So this is not going to match. And what I want to add, I think I'm going to add a little bit of black. Now I have an ivory black. If you don't do vegan or, you know, vegetarian things, know that there is bone in ivory black. It's not the black for you. This is what came in the Schminke Hoodrum Aquarelle 36 set. Ooh, I like that. All right, that is the color I'm going to use. All right, so I am going to, again, clean my brush. I think there's a little bit of pigment in there. Let's see. And I'm going to come really close to the line, but I'm not going to touch the line. I don't want to touch it. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to kind of carve around and leave a white space. We are creating sort of the earth, the land. I'm not going all the way up here. I'm creating a sort of carved out space. You could touch the blue if you want to blend in the blue to this. Again, there's no right or wrong. That's not how this tutorial works. Even with my other tutorials, if you want your bird to have 8 wings and 12 legs, I mean, no right or wrong. All right, so it's very, very wet. It's very soppy, and I'm going to start to add in some of this color. There is a way. I want a little bit more browns in here. What we're going to do is we're going to tie it into the blue, and I'm going to show you how. Okay. First, I want to add a little bit more of the sienna. A little bit of this color I've made. And if you want to dry brush and pull it out and have it look a little bit like land, you can do that. Just gonna add way more color here so you can really see on camera how loose this is. Okay, this is the land. And if you want lines, you can have lines. If you don't want any lines, if you want to soften it up, again, while it's super wet, you can go in with a little bit of water and soften those lines up. Now, we want it to blend with the sky. And there's a way to do that. And the way to do that would be to add a little bit, whatever your sky color was. Please make sure that you've saved some. If you have color matched to create your sky color, make sure you have a little bit left in your palette. You're gonna have a little bit on your brush. See, I put it on my nail. This is my indigo. This is my favorite shade of indigo. And you're gonna add a little tiny bit in your land. And what that does is it brings this into here that color matches. They belong together now because the color is in the top and the bottom. Now it is so slowly blooming, but I am going to add a wet brush and I'm going to soften it. I'm going to soften it a lot. So my earth now goes with my sky. Okay? Now, things you can do after this dries. You can continue to pull colors around, pull colors out. If you have too much of a color, again, squeegee the brush bristles out. Make sure it is perfectly, there's no water in here, it's all squeegeed, and then you can lift. While it's still wet, you can, if you have too much water or too much of a color, or you don't like the way something is blending and making a new hue, you can go in and you can pull it out. Okay, you can do that with empty brushes, as long as there's no like sitting water in there. If there's tons of sitting water in there, it's not going to pull up any other water or pigment. Okay, oop, and I got a drop on there. Now, once this is dry, you could then add other elements. So this is sort of just a very loose landscape. If you want to add elements that reinforce that idea, if this is too sort of soft or surreal, or maybe it doesn't look the way you want it to look, what you can do is but the whole thing has to be dry. Keep that in mind, okay? You could either do a tree with just branches, just a couple branches in a really nice dark brown. You could do a sepia, you could do a burnt umber that kind of goes up one side. You could do bird silhouettes. Okay, I just finished painting this. This hasn't dried yet. You could do bird silhouettes with ink, okay? Micron is archival and light fast. And if you want birds in your sky, or maybe you want to do dots and create a murmuration, which is a bunch of birds flying together in motion, you can do that. You can add little tiny elements. If you want to throw in huge chunks of salt and sea salt, while you're creating this, this will add a little speckle effect. If you want to sponge and create a pattern texture with a sponge so your land looks a little speckled, you can do that too. There are tons of ways to add texture within this tutorial if you like. If you want, you can even take a little bit of the land color that you're using, water it down, make sure it's really, really light. And you can add a little tiny bit in your sky. If you don't want any white page, and you can kind of blend it out. And what you're doing is adding a little bit of the below above. And it all blends together. It all is cohesive. It all goes together. Now I'm gonna let mine dry, and then I'm gonna add a couple little elements. So I'll come back once it's dry. Okay, thanks to the wonders of a hairdryer, mine is already dry. So you wanna make sure it's this dry, this level of dry, not tacky. Sometimes you can hold your hand above the piece of paper, and if you feel coldness radiating up, it's not dry. So you can actually feel the wetness without touching the page from the temperature that's rising up from it. So now we decide, do we want a little tree? Do we want a couple birds? I'm gonna do both, just so you can see what that looks like. You don't have to do either. You could call this good if it's color matched the way you want it. If you're creating a piece of art that you are then giving, like if this is for an office party or sort of like a white elephant gift or something, keep in mind to do this in advance to allow for drying time if you don't have a drying element like a hairdryer, or if you live in a very, very humid location where drying times take longer. Don't start this like a half an hour before you need to leave your house. Like Dollar Tree has really budget frames if you need one for quick presentation, but just make sure that you allow at least 2 hours for drying time and trying to get things done. So I'm going to go in with a very, very dark, I think this is my burnt umber. Let me check. I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right names that color match here. Yeah, burnt umber. Okay. You think I'd have these memorized, but I have other paint sets, so sometimes I forget what each name is. This is burnt umber. It's a very dark, gorgeous brown. And you could literally just go down. And I am using, this is 00. Sometimes it's written as 2/0. This is the Winsor Newton Cotman round brush. They're very budget friendly paintbrushes. I like them. I don't feel like you need to spend thousands of dollars on brushes to paint and get things done. So I'm just going to loosely scribble and add a multi-trunked tree, I think. I'm going to go 3s here and make sure that visually it looks interesting. And the base is a little wider than the top. There are branches coming off some of the branches. Things can fade. If you use a really, really dry brush, it creates a really nice sort of bark speckled effect. And the bottom can be the darkest. And this is great hand-eye coordination practice for those who want that kind of practice. Again, you do not have to add a branch or a tree or anything. You don't have to do that. If you want it to blend into the scenery, I am just doing little tiny dots like the stipple effect, which is great for illustration. Okay, there is a tree. Now for birds, I'm gonna go in with my dark indigo. I want them really, really dark blue. You can pick any color you want. I just really want it to match with the sky. And I'm just gonna do a couple little bird shapes, a little M, a little V, and one that looks like he's off to the side here. I hope you can see that. I have my lamps on because lighting's kind of wonky today. Natural light, as it were. All right, so we have 3 birds in the sky and we have a plant, and this is it. This is the tutorial. Again, you can figure out ways to add more texture. You can sponge, you can add salt. You can figure out ways to add more sky. If you want it to fade into a different color, if you're doing red to orange to yellow and this is a sunrise and then your ground is yellow to orange to red, it's the desert. It can be the mirrored effect. Okay, there's no right or wrong with this tutorial, just use what you have. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see the elements a little clearer. So here are the elements of my painting up close. I just wanted you to see some of the bloom effect. Here are the 3 birds I added. As we go over, here is my little tree. It's very quick, very fast. This is an easy gift idea. Again, you can color match this to the walls of your house. You can color match it to an office. You can color match it to whatever your preferences for where you live and where this is going. As you see, it didn't take a ton of time. You can practice this over and over and over. Again, you can move the horizon down, you can move the horizon up. Maybe you don't want so much land, maybe you just want more sky and you want to concentrate on birds, or you want to concentrate on the sunrise. Maybe you want more land, maybe where you live, trees look way different and you want to sort of add more rocks and stuff. Maybe you want to do another light layer of sponged brown over it. And keep going, you can create this multiple times. It's so quick that you can do this over and over and over. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.